friends, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be going over all the books I read in the month of November. I had a really great month in November. I only had a couple of disappointments, if I'm honest, but for the most part, I read some really awesome books. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book I read was You Said I Was Your Favorite by Monica Murphy. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. This is about Arch Lancaster, and he is forced to work alongside Daisy in the front office of Lancaster Prep. And she's kind of the good girl, doesn't do anything wrong. Her dad works at the school as well. He's like he's the groundskeeper, I think. So Daisy's really quiet. She doesn't speak a whole lot to anyone. She doesn't have really any friends or anything, and for some reason Arch just really likes her and wants to be around her all the time, and she does not like that. There is a third act breakup in this one, which is why I bumped it down to about 4 stars, and it's because of Daisy's father. He does not like Arch Lancaster, and I kind of wish she had stood her ground, which eventually she goes on to do, but like, she broke up with Arch because of her father, and like, I just wish she would have, you know, had a backbone a little bit sooner. The father had like this weird thing with the Lancasters, and even though he works for them, and they let Daisy go to the school at a discounted rate, it just didn't really make sense, if I'm entirely honest. But I really did like Daisy and Arch together. They had this opposites attraction. I think Arch is humbled by Daisy and Daisy is pushed out of her comfort zone by Arch, and so because of that, I think they're just a really great match. The next book I read was Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean Auel. I think I said that right. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a book about Alia. She is taken in by a clan of Neanderthals, so it is like kind of prehistoric, I guess you could say. I don't really know much about that time frame, if I'm honest. She doesn't really fit in, and she gets into trouble a lot because she doesn't fit in, and she has a different way of thinking because she is more like developed than the Neanderthals. She's more evolutionary developed, you could say. There isn't much plot beyond that, if I'm entirely honest, and I did find it to be fascinating even though there wasn't a whole lot like going on. I just thought it was kind of like a cool setting and like cool vibe and atmosphere. As much as I did enjoy this book, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars again. I don't think it's a series I'm going to keep reading. I just don't think I have much interest in this time period. And if it is something that you enjoy, that's awesome. I'm so happy. I do think it was very well written and seemed to be very well researched for the most part, but not my favorite time frame. I have A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. These are both rereads for me. I ended up giving them both 5 stars, of course, because I love them so much. The Bat Boys still make me swoon. I love them. I adore them. And I just had a really great time rereading these. They're just so much fun, and I think compared to every other fantasy romance I've ever read, I think Sarah J. Maas just writes dialogue so well and like banter so well, and that's why we all love them so much. So 5 stars for me. The next book I read was The Broken Vow by Katarina Mora. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars as well. So Zane grew up giving Celeste a hard time. He kind of bullied her in school, and they ended up getting to know one another and ended up loving each other, and then tragedy strikes and they are like torn apart and thinking like, did they ever even like really love each other? So years pass and their families are forming a merger, and part of this merger is that Celeste and Zane have to get married, and they're not very happy about that. So my least favorite part of this book was how everyone treated Celeste after she kind of like lost her best friend, watched her best friend kill herself, and just the amount of misunderstandings in this book. Like, they should have just sat down, have a conversation, you know, wouldn't kill anyone. I think these two got back together super kind of fast. Honestly, I would probably give this one 3.5 out of 4 stars now that no, 3.5 out of 5 stars now that I'm like kind of thinking about it. I do think Celeste is pretty badass though, because she got Zane framed for company espionage, so that's kind of impressive, honestly. Alright, up next I have Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Bailey works at this bar. She's emotionally damaged. Beau, who is also emotionally damaged, and he frequents. They weren't my favorite characters by any means, but I really did like this plot a whole lot, and kind of the pacing of it I think was really well done. I am sad to see this series end, but I'm very excited to see what Elsie Silver does next. So the next book I read was Tell Me What You Want by Lucia Franco. I really love Lucia Franco. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. So this is about Vanessa, and her brother Noah takes care of her after their parents died unexpectedly. So they're just trying to get back on their feet and, you know, figure out their lives. One of Noah's friends, Reed, also kind of like looks after her. Reed goes away for a really long time. She doesn't know why. Turns out he's in prison. Wild. So he's trying to get his life back on track, trying to get himself together, so on and so forth. So Vanessa is living a little bit of a double life, and she is a beauty makeup influencer, and she also does like OnlyFans. Her brother doesn't know that though. And Reed finds out, and so Vanessa and Reed end up in this friends with benefits situation, and obviously Noah's not happy about that. So one thing I think Lucia Franco does super duper well is writing conflict between her characters, especially like friend-sibling conflict. She doesn't often have a lot of conflict between like her female main character and male main character, but like friends, family conflict, I think she does super duper well. I always have fun reading her books, and I think this one was well worth the wait. This one is kind of a doozy. So up next I ended up reading Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is about Fitz, and he is the bastard son of the crown prince, and in order to be useful to the crown he has to train to become an assassin. This book has been on my TBR for so long. Like, it was the first book I added. I feel like this was very entry level for Robin Hobb's like impressive world building. I know that this is part of a like 12, 13, 14 book series that like just kind of goes on. So there wasn't, I think the plot was very weak in this one, but I think the world building was very well done. I'm just not a huge fan of training sequences, and that's like mostly what this book was. It was basically just Fitz training to be an assassin, and I just don't care for that. Like, give me like 10 pages of it and I'm good. I move on with my life. Just wasn't a ton going on. It by no means was a page turner. It kind of sucked to get through, I'm not gonna lie. I will absolutely continue the series. I hope there's more action and more just things going on, in especially because I did enjoy the world building, the characters, and the magic system and everything else about this book. Just the plot just was not there for me, and I did end up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, next I got a really good one that honestly it blew me away, and it actually really shocked me. So I have King of Wrath by Anna Huang, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is about Dante and Vivian. Dante is being blackmailed by Vivian's father, and he was like super rich and a bachelor. So their marriage is arranged, and he like wants nothing to do with her, and she is open to being with him, but like it's not like, obviously he's a multi-billionaire, who wouldn't want to be with him. I have previously read Anna Huang's books before, and I was just not a huge fan. I read like the first 2 books in Twisted. I wasn't super impressed by them. I DNF'd the 3rd one, and I was real hesitant going into this one, but I just saw a copy laying around my library and I was like, I'm gonna pick it up, and I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed the chemistry between Dante and Vivian. The characters, the writing, everything was just a massive hit for me, especially the plot. I think the pacing was immaculate. Granted, there was nothing like super original about it by any means, but this is just kind of one of those books where it's like, it's fun to get lost in and like enjoy and just kind of be present, I guess. And it was just really fun. I had a really fun time reading it. Speaking of super fun reads, I read Flames of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins, which I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars to. Arya is a half witch, and she doesn't know what the other half of her is, so she's kind of like trying to figure out who her father is too along the way. But her and her sisters are like gone for a while, and they come home and find out that this guy named Nox has taken over their kingdom, and they're not happy about it, and Nox is like determined to kill them. And Nox and Arya have this like super dramatic chemical pull to them, and they just are infatuated with one another. Arya wants nothing to do with him though, but again, Knox is like infatuated with her, so it's kind of funny to read about. It's very chaotic, as the title states. There's so much, but like nothing happens, but it's just so back and forth and chaotic, and just really, it's just such a fun read for me. And I had a really great time rereading it, and I'm really excited to eventually get to the newest release. So next up we have Salt Kiss by Sierra Simone. Woo! Oh my god, if anyone's gonna write an angsty book, it is going to be Sierra Simone, hands down. I don't think anyone does angst like Sierra Simone does angst, if I'm honest. So this is about Tristan. He was in the war between that happened in like the new Camelot series, and he is kind of doesn't have a purpose in life anymore, so he goes to work for his new like step uncle Mark, who owns this like club. Okay, he owns a club. Tristan is going to be Mark's bodyguard. Of course, Mark and Tristan fall in love with each other, but the real kicker is that Mark is engaged to another woman, and he makes Tristan sail across the Atlantic Ocean and go get his new fiance. Yeah. So I am so excited for whenever the next book is released, because I need it in my hands like yesterday. This book is just filled with angst and heartbreak, and you feel so bad for Tristan, who just wants to be with Mark, and you feel so bad for Isolde, who wants to be with Mark too, but it's not quite the life that she wants. So you're kind of figuring out who wants what and what is Mark's endgame here. Up next, I ended up reading Carnage by Chantal Tessier. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. This is a Lord's book. It's about Carnage, and basically they're kind of like the do-it-men, the hitmen. I don't know what really to call them, but they're the ones who get stuff done around there, and around the Lords. It's very dark, and it has tons of triggers, and it's very messy and chaotic. So if that is up your alley, I highly recommend, because Carnage does not disappoint. It was really, really great. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was Dark Age by Pierce Brown. I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and there was not a whole lot going on for like the first 500 pages, and I was kind of disappointed, if I'm honest. But it did set up Lightbringer really, really well, which is like the next book. I really loved Lyrica and Victra's perspectives, but I could have done without Lysander, honestly. Yikes. The stakes have been greatly raised. I just wish I saw more women in Dark Age, if I'm honest. That's what I'm coming down. That's what this is coming down to, is I wish I saw more of the women. I'm expecting massive things in Lightbringer, so we'll see what happens. The next book I had was Low-Key Disappointment, and I might lower it to like 2 stars. So it is The Worst Kept Secret by QB Tyler. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I might lower it, honestly. Normally, if I don't like a book, I still kind of keep it in like that 3-star range, even if I do finish it. But like I have to like hate a book to like give it like a 1 or 2 star. If it's like a 2 star, I don't even finish it generally. This is a age gap dad's best friend romance. I found it to just be okay. It wasn't anything. It felt very recycled. The smut was okay, the characters were okay, the plot was okay. It was just okay, honestly. Nothing really stuck out to me. It all just felt overused, a little bit recycled, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit of a letdown by QB Tyler. I have read better books from her, so I kind of expected more from her, but I guess you win some, you lose some, and this was a L for me. The next one I ended up reading was Vow of Deception by Rita Kent. Again, this is an author who I have read previously, wasn't a huge fan of, but I'm revisiting, so now I'm like, maybe I do like. So this is about a girl named Winter. She is kind of down on her luck, and there's this guy named Adrian who basically kind of kidnaps her and forces her to act like his dead wife. And you're trying to figure out why, because this guy's like insane. Adrian kind of blames Winter for his wife being dead and sees it as an act of revenge. I am very excited to see what happens, because the book ends on a massive cliffhanger, so I am greatly enjoying this series. The next book I read, I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars to, and that is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I really like this book, and I think it is set up so well for the rest of the series. But this is about Tisana, and she goes to buy her freedom. She's been a slave most of her adult life, and she goes to buy her freedom and ends up killing the most powerful man in her city. So she runs to what they call the Order. I still don't understand what the Order is, if I'm entirely honest. I have so many questions left in this book. But she runs to the Order, and she is to become an apprentice to a guy named Max, who wants nothing to do with the Order anymore. So he is unpleasantly surprised by this adult woman showing up on his door and being like, here's your new apprentice, train her. And they slowly fall in love, and it was so sweet and I loved it. Max is kind of grumpy. He's pretty doubtful that she will be able to like master her magic and do what the Order requires of her, but there is war looming and her safety's at risk, so like she has to do it. I greatly enjoyed the characters and development in this book. I really liked the magic system. I thought it was super easy to follow. The world building was also super great, even though I have a million and one questions for the next book. I hope they get answered. Like I said, I still don't really know what the Order is, if I'm honest. I feel kind of dumb, but one of my friends pointed out that this is one of the only books I've ever read where the main character doesn't fully know a language. Like, she doesn't understand the language that she is like around. So the next book I have is Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars as well. This is a book about an assassin who is training to become an assassin. He tries leaving behind his old life and so on and so forth. This is about Azoth. I think I said that right. He grows up in the streets and wants to become an assassin, so he becomes the assassin to like the world's best assassin. He is trying to leave his life behind and becomes Kyler Stern. Things keep getting pulled up from his old life that he can't seem to leave behind. I think the weakest part of this book is the world building. The plot was immaculate, the characters were great, I really enjoyed it, but the plot, I cannot wait to see how it kind of, or not the plot, I can't wait to see how the world building expands, and because I think it will, because this takes place, this world has like multiple series, like it's on its 3rd series right now, so I can't imagine the world building getting worse, you know? Otherwise, I really like the plot and the politics, so I'm really excited to keep reading the series. I think Brent Weeks will slowly rise up ranks in my favorite fantasy authors. I have Blood Union Part 2 by Bella Roth. This is a vampire, very political romance. It's really fun. It's actually not that fun, but it's very slow burn and it is very slow. A lot happens in this book, which is very surprising because in the previous book not a ton happens, so I really loved that we saw a lot more things. There's just tons of world building in this and it just continues to expand, so it's been very interesting. I thought this one was actually kind of funny, like it had some really good humor in it, and I'm just really excited to keep seeing where the series go. I think Bella Roth is a very talented, gifted writer, and she is like, I could kiss her mind because it is a really great series. I am excited to eventually get my hands on the next. Lastly, I have Blood So Black by Jewel Jeffers. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. This book is told in 2 different timelines between a mother and her daughter. The mother is Corinne. I think the mother is Corvina, sorry. The mother is Corvina, and the daughter is Marie. So Marie grows up to be a Steely Fae, and in this world, Steely are gold, and then the Unsteely Fae bleed black. And when Marie goes to just figure out whether or not she's Steely or Unsteely, she ends up, her blood runs black. She has to learn how to master her magic in the Unsteely court, eventually to get back to her parents in the Steely court. But it goes back and forth between the mother and daughter, like I said. So you're trying to learn how Marie got to the spot where she is at today through the mother's like 200 years ago. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was kind of cool, if I'm honest. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I think it's actually really well done. I don't know if it will continue to be like that. If Fated Mates and Dark Academia had a baby, it would be this book, honestly. I really enjoyed both point of views, which is not something I typically enjoy, especially when it's dual timeline. And I really enjoyed Marie and Corvina's relationship as mother and daughter, and which you kind of see through Marie's eyes. And I was pretty gutted at the end, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm very excited to read the next book because I think it's set up super well. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and come and talk to me and hang out with me and we can talk about books. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.